I ended up paying $250 cash for this bike, plus I traded some stuff, and so let's call it $325. That is a really good deal because it comes with a few things. First of all, it comes with a very lightly used Cane Creek headset, probably $120 brand new. It does in fact come with a dropper post and a lever and a SRAM dub bottom bracket, which is also in very good working order. And so this purchase was very easy to justify, but what got me really excited about it was this feature right over here. We can adjust the length of the chainstay by a small amount. Why would somebody want to do that? All right, I think I mostly have what we need here. And then the rest of it is right here. A friend of mine supplied these. I suspect I'm gonna owe him a lot of bike parts to make good on this. These are 29-inch Forge and Bond carbon wheels with Industry 9 hubs. And as you can see, it comes with an XD driver body. That's for SRAM cassettes, but I'm actually not going to put a cassette on this wheel at all. This bike is gonna be a single speed. This is gonna make the bike simple, fun, reliable, and completely impractical. So we've adjusted the chain to as close as we can for this bike. Now it's easier to understand why this bike has an adjustable dropout. We can increase the length of the chainstay very slightly and put perfect tension on the chain, and we don't need a derailleur. So now you might be thinking, great, the chain has perfect tension. Now what? We've got a bike that you can't really climb with, and what's worse, it's got gigantic tires. Why would you put 2.8-inch mountain bike tires on a bike that you can't even climb with? Well, you haven't seen the fork yet. A fully rigid fork, not just any fully rigid fork, a 29-inch suspension adjusted through axle 110mm fork. So it is used, and it is the color silver. At first that bothered me, but then I realized it matches the Salsa logo on the down tube. I think I'm gonna use some restraint and leave it and get this bike built. Salsa is a sister company to Surly. They make a lot of gravel and bike packing stuff, and also frames like this that can be converted easily to single speed. There's not much to this bike because it doesn't have a drivetrain. I just need to run this hydraulic brake hose through the frame. Of course, I'm using a set of Shimano MT200s. They're really inexpensive brakes. You can get them for about 55 bucks, and they are extraordinarily reliable and high performance for the price. This was the original shift cable here, and so we can use it to snake the brake hose through the frame. This build is going really quick because there's no drivetrain. All we have to do is install a seat, a bottle cage. I'm gonna put clipless pedals on this bike because you want to have a prayer of being able to pedal uphill. And then we can bleed the rear brake, make a few final adjustments, and stare at it. Initial impressions, this thing's geared way too high for climbing, but I already knew that. I used the gears that I had on hand, which was a 28 tooth chainring and 18 tooth rear cog with 145 millimeter cranks. With that said, I didn't have to walk anything on this climb. I was able to make it work, but if I did that every day, I would blow out my knees. And so yeah, we're gonna change the gearing on this. Now, the other thing I noticed is that even on the climb, the rigid fork took some adjusting. I have to change my body position. A lot of us have a tendency to let our shoulders do the shock absorption because the suspension fork is picking up most of the load. And I feel even just making it up here, I'm a better rider for it. And having said that, it is time to descend. So I don't know if you knew this, but suspension is actually designed to keep your wheels on the ground. It's really, really easy to get air on this for that very reason. Now, with that said, that's pretty much the only advantage you get on this going downhill. There's actually a much bigger difference between a full rigid and a hardtail than a hardtail and a full suspension. And that's probably why I know a lot of people who ride single speeds, but not a whole lot of people who ride full rigid bikes. That said, I do have a little bit of compliance. First of all, the tires, these are high volume. If you happen to know how to calculate the volume of a donut, you know that going from 2.5 to 2.8 is actually a lot of additional air. The other place I'm getting compliance is my handlebars. These are carbon fiber P&W handlebars, and they built a fair bit of upwards and downwards compliance into the handlebars. They don't move any other direction, and tell you something was taking the sting out for me. Despite the fact that this bike is so simple, you'll notice that I left the dropper post. I've said in the past I would give up my suspension fork before I gave up my dropper post, and I'm actually being 100% serious. That was something I was not willing to take off the bike. So now that I've ridden the bike, I'm starting to get used to it. I'm starting to change my body position and look at things in a different way. That's why you want to have different bikes, is it makes you a better rider. It makes you better able to adapt to different scenarios. And I'm gonna give you a few additional thoughts. First of all, the bike's about 25 pounds. That is light for a trail bike, but not for a trail bike that doesn't have a drivetrain or a suspension fork. I would say the extra weight is coming from these big beefy tires and the not particularly light aluminum alloy frame. And as I said, it does have a dropper post. Another thing I noticed, these carbon wheels feel really nice, and also the valve caps have valve core wrenches in them, and so that's kind of a cool dual purpose. Also, I'm very glad that I chose to put clipless pedals on this bike, because when you're going slow and mashing and trying to get through something, yeah, being clipped in is pretty useful. Also, having thought about the gearing of this bike, the answer might be to just put longer cranks on it. I have these 5-dev 145 millimeter cranks on the bike. They feel amazing if you have gears and you can spin efficiently. Single speed, you're almost never spinning efficiently, and so you just need leverage. So with all that said, I'm gonna keep this bike around for a little bit. I'm gonna optimize it. I'm gonna try and make it as good as possible, and then I'm gonna sell it. I recognize all the benefits of it. I recognize how fun it can be, and I have a lot of respect for people who ride bikes like these, but I just don't have it like that. Not for me. As of today's date, we are still in the middle of the bike apocalypse, and so new bikes, used bikes, they're all going for next to nothing, so it's not the time to fix up an old bike and expect to make a profit on it. But I'm having a lot of fun putting bikes back on the trail, and this is something we probably would have not normally done on Flip Bike because nobody's gonna buy that thing. But still, Salsa Timberjack, super cool bike. I think to some people, this is the coolest bike in the world. I had a lot of fun building it, I had a lot of fun riding it, and for the foreseeable future, I'm gonna be messing around on it a little bit. Also, we have new green Berm Peak jerseys. These are 3/4 sleeve. It's a little cold out, and so I have a long sleeve under it, but you can get these on Cognitive MTB. Hope you did learn a little bit about why some people ride single speeds, and in fact, full rigids. I hope you learned something. If you didn't, I hope you at least found this entertaining. Thanks for riding with me today, and I'll see you next time.